So we had to narrow down and get back into a discussion around teachers and whatnot. Whole school demographics in an area like this. We found out a lot of teachers in this community are coming from outside the community. They do not live in the community. Reminded us of San Bernardino a little bit and how people are commuting in there as well. So 30 to 60-minute commutes in. School we were at yesterday had 11% turnover this year. They lost 1 of 9 teachers, and they said, well, this was the dream job in Germany, came up. But I thought this was the dream job. You went through the 4-hour interview process to get the job, right? So there was some turnover in the school, and this is year 1. And so what's the 5-year turnover rate look like? And so this is what we're not concerned about is, can we get somebody excited coming out in the teaching profession, ready to change the world? It's how do we retain them and how do we grow them over time? So talent development and acquisition are challenges that are facing Norma every day. And so we kind of modeled, we followed Norma's track a little bit and what she's been doing at her school, because the change process is long and not all the staff is aligned, and the strong leadership that's important to start that and to identify and recognize talent, to identify core belief systems and those type of things, and then set frameworks in place. So all of that kind of thing gets us back around to, but what about retaining that teacher? And what about developing that teacher? And so some of her notes were in the area of grit and resilience for teachers, in growth, because teachers still want to grow, and there aren't too many teaching opportunities. Professional development is kind of a joke because it's like medicine you have to take, but it's not really helping you become better at your craft in a lot of instances, right?
Correct.
All the teachers were like, that's true, right? So they want to grow and become better at their craft, and they want to be, that helps take friction out of the system. A less bored kid that I engage better and I'm more professional in my teaching craft is less of a problem for me, which takes stress, kind of for me out of the system. So we started with these big stressors for teachers at school organizations that lack strong leadership at the principal level and lack collegial environments. The work demands that are escalating, the pieces of the job that are stacked on that aren't teaching are more and more, so it creates a lot more weight, and then the limitation on the work resources and their own ability to deal with the social and emotional competence for stress. But Lynn wanted to broaden the conversation, rightly so, into the financial stress associated with teachers. We talked about the gender gap so teaching elementary school, 90% women, teaching overall 2/3 women, kind of across the board, and the way that most of those women are primary caregivers in their homes to their children. So before school, during school, after school, their male equivalents don't have quite the same cortisol problem they do, according to MIM and others who look at this stuff more frequently. And so it led to discussions about, if you're aware of these things and you start to assess these things in more of a holistic well-being sense, if we were taking what Lynn's work was with the individual students and we were bringing about some similar tool, there are some things we'd have to be careful with. In that instance, you want the teacher to know the profile of the student so the teacher can positively intervene. With an adult, that's more invasive, that has more trouble with unions that are going to get involved and say, our teachers, it has more problem with honesty. I mean, who wants to admit they're having financial problems, or that that there's some challenges there to getting adults to answer these questions maybe the same way kids do, if it's, I know who you are because I have your barcode. But one of the things that's positive about the assessment is, as soon as you're doing the assessment and engaging the student feels more valuable. As soon as you begin to engage in an assessment like this with teachers and at least provide them their profile. So we started to think about things like TED and the way that you might look at a TED profile, or creating a common language. You would think about how Core Clarity helps us create a common language. TED might help you create a common language, or a tool that helps you create a common language about financial wellness, social wellness, occupational wellness, physical wellness, emotional wellness. And so these topics now, we can take the shadow culture that's there and at least bring out the conversation, right? And we can provide you with, these are things that you look strong in and these are things you look weak in. And now you can positively opt into opportunities that we create that deal with wellness on an opt-in basis for adults, as opposed to you're mandated to go to financial literacy training, because of the results of your analysis, right? So creating the assessment tool that's comprehensive, providing that to the teacher so the teacher now has a better view of themselves, creating that common language among everyone, and then creating the support systems on-site or within that community to help them address the specific things that are areas of weakness were all ways that a teacher would feel now somebody cares about something besides my kid's test scores.
So with something like what Next Jump does with the buddy system, talking partners, is that?
Buddy systems, talking partners, low stakes reports. Len, we started off with a conversation about on our way here, your boarding experience. There were 4 buttons on a little stand, and you could press happy face, not so happy face, or really unhappy face. And so Lynn was very interested in seeing something like that in real time today.
Yeah.
What's going on with the staff at
Joyful
the school?
report, 8 o'clock.
Right. 62% of teachers weighed in with happy faces this morning. But she was, she was thinking in terms of real time, and not from a whack-a-mole perspective, like, oh, the math teacher's having a bad day.
Right.
I should go down to the math teacher and ask him more about that, because that gets, again, back to invasive. I don't feel like talking about it. I don't want to be honest. But it does create temperature and climate.
Even the thumbs up, thumbs down. New curriculum came up. You get thumbs up,
thumbs down.
A meeting we had to sit in, thumbs up, thumbs down. The room I'm in, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah,
and starting to aggregate that, you start getting a dashboard of what's working, what's not, what's creating the engagement.
This is precisely how the advertising industry works. From consumer sentiment buying center, so if there are hundreds of billions of dollars worldwide in that system, why the hell don't we have something even akin to it in education?
Yeah, interesting.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
And work resources are a big deal in terms of stressors and low autonomy, right? Because no one ever asks, and teachers report that among all active professions, they rate lowest in feeling that their opinions count at work. So, no one cares what I have to say, and so even feedback systems that you actually do something with would go a long way toward addressing one of the major stress points for teachers. So I think you have to have some type of tool to kind of, as we saw, that context of student engagement, right? How's Johnny at the beginning of the year, and how's Johnny at the end of the year? And have we made any gains there with Johnny to sort of assess if what we're doing is working? We're not doing that at a school level right now with teachers. We need to be doing that because the theory then is that student engagement's really important to getting to outcomes. Well, how important is teacher engagement to student engagement? And we believe that's pivotal. And then we're not assessing it in any way, and that's where. So anyway, that's where a lot of our head was. But I'll let them comment real quick.
Do you want to go ahead and talk about your self-efficacy and the piece what's related to your teachers?
So self-efficacy, building self-efficacy for our teachers is number one. Job satisfaction comes when you feel that you are doing something that truly is impacting. And just as you're talking about, and as everybody's talking about, I'm thinking like one of the biggest pieces that we are possibly not talking about in teachers' growth and resilience and satisfaction and retention is teaching our teachers how to deal with diversity. So most of our teachers are white females, and we're dealing with a lot of our students that are minorities. So with that, like, how do we also build that self-efficacy to have the confidence that we're going to be teaching this student, and to get also that confidence from the student that the student is going to get that relationship from this person that possibly doesn't look like me. But with self-efficacy is like building that resilience by giving them the support that they needed. So I'm thinking what we do for students is we put the student in the middle, and then we say, what do we need to provide for that student's well-being and mastery level, satisfaction at school, resilience, hope, or even just to get them to attend. What do we need to put in interventions? And for teachers, we have to do the same thing. So even if we do that, whatever the scale is, that it's geared with the outcome that now this teacher will have a list of resources to pick based on that information that I have as a teacher, or as the district, or as the administrator, that I can go ahead and bring into my school system and have that available for them. Whether it is social, emotional, whether it is, a therapist, whether it is financial support, whether it is housing support, like getting housing accommodations, whatever it is, to make that person as whole as possible. But also giving them that additional professional development and training that everybody should be expected to go into something else. Growth. I think growth is important for everybody. So that very aligned with how do we become more confident in what we're doing. Did you have something?
Well, and I think the whole piece too about creating some kind of a core teacher team where the genesis of this idea gets going, and Norma talked about with some of her staff, it's the haters, or the lovers, the haters, and the in-betweeners, and you're going to shoot for the in-betweeners, right? And gradually over time, as the process unfolds, expand this body of people that are on board, and as this gets more contagious and people are more involved and excited about this, wrapping in more folks. From a teacher standpoint, I think the most exciting piece is that somebody gives a hoot what I'm involved with on a daily basis, and now it's outside of just the typical things. Like we were even looking at the Gallup thing, the Q12, but it doesn't address the financial, it doesn't address daycare, it doesn't address the parenting challenges, it doesn't address housing or the long commute or whatever that is. And we certainly saw that when we visited, right, that if people are commuting in a half an hour, and that's probably with the minimal traffic thing. I would imagine if you leave at X amount of time, you can double that. And so as a leader, right, if I'm caring about the well-being of my teachers and I know you commute for an hour, I'm going to get you out of the building at 3:30, right? And maybe on my survey, I've identified that, hey, that's a piece for me. I can't get home at 7 o'clock at night and be well and be back the next morning. Right, so factoring some of those things in that are considered non-traditional pieces that we don't oftentimes include. Yeah. Chelsea or Denise,
Where's Denise go?
I don't know where
She's not
Denise
feeling well.
and Crystal.
I mostly talked to him within the group about my past experience and how, there was lack of resources for people kind of on the front line. And so just kind of giving input on what would it look like if I had those resources. I feel like it would decrease burnout rates, definitely increase positive work environments, retention, so just things like that.